Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this Chris Hassick. I have the lovely Karen Haines today. She is the founder of Spa Girl Cocktails, and they are tasty. I've tried them. And so Karen came from a background that had zero to do with, well, liquor. But she said, well, I want to create my own cocktail. She did it. And what's not only impressive about the fact that she didn't have any experience in the industry, for those of you who don't know, the liquor industry is very male dominant. Well, that's probably an understatement. Although I am happy to say it does seem like the tide is slowly changing. It's getting more diverse. So, Karen, thank you for being here. And before I forget, not only did she create her own liquor brand, but it is now nationally distributed and it has been winning awards and she's getting a ton of superb press. So not only did she achieve her dream, but she's going all in and then some. So Karen, thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, that sounds great. Thank you. Yes, I mean, really a very fun, interesting journey. And so it was about 9 years ago when I had the idea, the dream, that I wanted to create a ready-to-drink cocktail in the alcohol industry for women, really specifically targeting women, because there's nothing out there. There isn't so many more products now, but when I first had this vision and the dream, so I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm not sure how. It's so funny. I was on a girls' trip and I brought all my little, my vodka and cucumbers and everything to make my spa water, which is the flagship flavor in Palm Springs. And I was reading a magazine with Bethany Frankel on it. It was Forbes magazine, and about her product, and it was sold. And I got to thinking, and I'm like, that was brilliant. I mean, she really broke that glass ceiling as far as a ready to drink for women in the market. It was acquired by a larger company and it kind of fell short. With all due respect, I think some men got a hold of the brand and put out a lot of different flavors, on and on. Anyway, what I felt was missing was a really compelling lifestyle brand and then a fabulous product. So that was where it all started. So I kind of go back to my past, actually I started Spa Girl, created Spa Girl when my kids went to college. So I had all those decades of, being a mom. I was a flight attendant, interior designer, caterer, very similar, not quite as talented as you as a chef. But so I had all these different things that, unbeknownst to me, was all my experience to lead up to this moment of, deciding I'm going to go into probably one of the hardest industries as an entrepreneur with zero experience. So that's where it all came to be.
So could you, for anybody out there who wants to start something, because one thing a lot of people don't think about is transferable skills. And so could you tell us 3 skills that you found were transferable and what were they transferable from? Like maybe, for example, you learn customer service when you're a flight attendant and so yeah, could you just give just a couple examples of how you transferred skills to your current Spa Girl thing?
Exactly. Actually, you're absolutely dead on. Customer skills and customer service as a flight attendant for 18 years with a major airline. Back in the day when I was trained, it was all about customer service. So that was number one. And then my passion, just your inner passion, whatever it is anybody likes to do, my passion happened to be interior design. So while I was flying, I'd take interior design classes. And then that turned into catering for the clients that I had. But all the while, that kind of kept building what I would ultimately create in Spa Girl Cocktails. A beautiful product, but a lifestyle brand. So, I would say all 3, it's like everything you do on a daily basis leads you in a direction. Sometimes you're not even sure where it is, but then you start understanding it a little bit. In fact, I think it was just around 2000 when everybody was buying domain names. I think my husband and I stayed up one night and bought 50 domain names. Oh, we're going to kill it. We're going to resell these. But one of the domain names I bought was leopardshop.com. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do an internet business and I'm going to sell everything leopard fabric, leopard sheets, leopard clothes, leopard handbags, leopard luggage, you name it. And, I bought all this inventory, we stored it, I was shipping it. I was making no money, spent way more than I needed to just in inventory, ended up giving gifts for years to friends and family with all my inventory. But I wouldn't say that was a failure at all, because it helped define my style. It kind of sent me in the right direction.
Well, everything leads us to where we are. So, every experience is valid just for the experience.
Right.
So what would you say, when you're an entrepreneur, obviously there are going to be some, well, as an entrepreneur, you have to love ambiguity, because it's not, especially if you're creating something that hasn't existed before, or your version of it is different. It's not like you're opening a McDonald's franchise. So
True.
what can you, for anybody out there who wants to start something and they're kind of afraid, when it comes to dealing with that uncertainty, like when you were creating Spa Girl and you're like, oh, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go straight? You have any advice you could give anybody as to how you dealt with that?
Yes, in the very beginning, because I was going into an industry, the only thing I knew about was I did a lot of purchasing of alcohol and I enjoyed having cocktails, but that's all I knew. And I almost think the less you know, the better off you are, because if you know exactly how difficult it's going to be, the fear factor alone scares so many people away in any type of entrepreneurial project. It's just, it's fearful and it's really lonely. I spent years and years, the early years of my life, just working every day. Still do, but some days I don't even know what I did, but it was like I had to keep moving forward in one way or another. Made so many mistakes. Oh my gosh, I literally didn't even know how to source a bottle, anything. So I really went into it just kind of in la la land, but never doubting, ever doubting the possibility, because I felt first of all, I felt there was really something missing in the marketplace. There wasn't a product, a lower calorie, low carb, higher ABV that spoke to women. And we're really a female brand. Men love us too. My husband drinks it.
I'm one. It is very good.
So it's just, we had all these great attributes, but nobody was doing it. And I still to this day, I contend if I don't do it, somebody else will. And I know I can do it. So I think you've got to have that confidence, but most importantly, having a very deep respect of fear is good, because it motivates you. And oftentimes the fear and the failures will define you. When you get that little success, you're like, okay, that's good. It's not good enough. But if you fail at something, it would be devastating to me. Like, oh my gosh, how did I let that happen? I've got to make this better.
Yeah, I like the word confidence, because a lot of people use faith, but I'm not a fan of the word faith because it implies a belief in something without evidence. Yeah, but confidence is something more tangible. So yeah. I always prefer, or hope. I like hope because I have hope, and that's, I guess, in a way.
And dreams.
Yeah. I like the word confidence because, you just have to have confidence in yourself. And so could you, without going into too much detail, just so we don't lose anybody listening, could you go through just some of the steps, when here you are, you just had an idea in your head to, well, not to now, because that's quite a timeline, but how about walk people through some of your steps from, okay, the idea is here to, oh, it's in a bottle. Because obviously you were in a new industry. And so I think you told me before you just started with Google, right?
I did. I sat down and Googled how to start a liquor company. And I kept a journal. I still have journals. I keep them. I'm not one, I wish I were, that I would journal my day, but I do lists. So every day I have a list. And if, sometimes there's 10 things on that list. If I get one or two important things done, that's great. Some of them are, aspirations that need to get done. But I do think that starting off, if you have any, I guess my number one would be trademark. Get your trademarks, because you might have this great idea, this great name, and you're working all towards it. Then you go to file a trademark and it's taken. So, you kind of get those legal things done, open an LLC. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth if you should open it right away or wait for a while.
An LLC is cheap. So
it's cheap. So that's not, but to get your business documents in order, just on a legal aspect, that helps. Then it also motivates you, like, okay, I've got my trademark, Spa Girl Cocktails. Now I've got to get the bottle. Now I've got to find a distillery. Then you start listing the next steps.
Did you, now I'm going to guess that because this was a new industry for you, that you didn't have a list of, oh, these are the 500 things I have to do. It was, you start Googling, this is what I need to do. Then you start doing things, and then you're like, oh, I got to do this yesterday. And then you add that. So it's kind of like, for lack of a better term, and this is a negative connotation, but putting out fires, so to speak, because you're just kind of discovering stuff as it pops up. Oh, I didn't know I needed that. Let me do that too. Was it kind of like that?
It was. And the other thing that I did is I asked as many questions to as many people as I could. I would go into Whole Foods, let's say, and I'd move bottles around, and I'd study positioning and shelf space. Most importantly, what caught my eye, what label, what I thought was geared towards women, I just tried to absorb as much information about the space that I could. But what I also found while doing that, I also studied women's fashion, which I love, and design, because trying to build this lifestyle brand, you've got all these other aspects that are very aspirational, that feeds my passion, that help feed the progress of building the brand.
Did you do because I took a business course once before, and the host of the course had us go through an exercise, and she said, put together a vision board, get images of, colors, you go to like Pinterest or wherever, you just get as many images to create a theme. And did you do anything like that, or you just kind of just knew?
No, absolutely. What I did, because, the industry that I was trying to break into, as we discussed, is male dominated. That was on the heels of ready to drink category that nobody wanted. It wasn't a spirit based. It was more wine, beer based. It was out of vogue, completely out of vogue. So I was climbing that huge mountain and pushing that boulder up. But the one thing that I did, which I would recommend to anybody starting a business, and it doesn't matter what the business is to create just that, a vision board. But what I did, I did a brand book, and it was this big, I would hold it up, but it's in the other room, this big, beautiful pink vision book with big gold Spa Girl logo. And it was a lifestyle brand. It had, women, mothers, children, or, families, fashion, rock and roll. And it really told the story of the lifestyle of the brand. And then that would get a lot of people's attention. They're like, wow, she's actually serious about this. And I'd say, yes, and I'm not stopping. I know it. I mean, you have to keep telling yourself you can do it.
And now, if I'm not mistaken, let me ask you that when I put together my vision board, now I never started a company based on that, but I just did it as the exercise. What I found is, and tell me if you were the same, you went into it having a vision in your mind, but as you started adding pieces, it slowly evolved. And what ended up didn't really resemble, at least for me, what I had initially. I mean, in some way, but did you find that as you were adding things to the Spa Girl book, and according to your vision, that your vision changed? It kind of evolved, I guess.
It evolved, but it never changed.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
it's still that, you know, beautiful, passionate brand. I mean, for me personally, I mean, just who I am, you know, I love this quote by Madame Pompadour, and it said, "My wish is to make every day more beautiful than before." So, you know, I've been told that I live in this, you know, fantasy world, visually, and I do. But I think that's what helps the creativity of whatever you're trying to do. You know, whether you're trying to make handbags or shoes or start different businesses. You know, I think the thing that I think a lot of people get that kick start to go and to begin, but then there's so many walls you hit, you get tired and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I can't, this is bigger than me. I can't do this. And you just have to keep, you know, forging forward, especially if you believe in it.
Yeah. 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 True. True. And on your journey with Spa Girl, how many people do you think you may have met who did what you said? Where let me back up. I'll let me get my thoughts together. On your Spa Girl journey, did you meet other people who had started something or were trying to start something and they just kind of, and it just failed? So if the answer to that question is yes, what do you think they had in common as to why they quit?
Yes, I've known, you know, a few women that have started businesses that have not been able to complete their dream and their vision. And probably the number one reason is funding. You know, one of my girlfriends started a bathing suit company, which, you know, is highly competitive, and, you know, samples and on, and she'd get her samples and then the next samples wouldn't arrive. And, you know, there's sometimes there's, you know, supply chain issues and different things. But yeah, no, it's a reality.
So you think funding is the biggest reason that, or one of them maybe, I guess.
One of them, no. So, you know, for me, we totally bootstrapped it. I mean, I was stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Oh my gosh, I mean, because especially in industry like liquor, you know, it's a very expensive
Yeah.
barrier to entry. Plainly, it is. But I think if you know, you just keep forging forward, and you know, if you have no doubt in what you're trying to do, it's contagious. People are going to go, okay, I get it. And trust me, I've been said no to so many times. I mean, if I took any of those no's, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking. So you've got to be a little thick-skinned. But what I would always do is I would, you know, be very gracious and understand. Granted, I have no track record. Why would you place this big order? Why would you take me on as my distributor? But I would always say, you know, just give me a little more time. Just give me another chance. And I would pester a lot of people until probably they got tired of me and they said, okay, we'll give you a chance. We'll give you a couple stores, see what you can do. But once you do that, then the work really begins, because you have to prove your name's on it. People have given you a chance, and you want to make them proud, make yourself proud, and know you can do it.
So you create a Spa Girl, you've got your company going. Now, it's one thing to have your vision in your head, but you've got to translate that to others. What did you do once you started hiring people to ensure that they, you know, because I've, you know, I know what you do, and I've studied Spa Girl when I interviewed you before, so I understand your branding. I mean, I have the visuals in my head. So, what did you do to let me shorten that because I tend to get long-winded. So you started Spa Girl, and then you're at a point where you start adding people to run your company, okay, regardless of their position. What steps did you take to make sure that their actions and their vision aligned with your actions and your vision?
It's a great question. Initially, early on, I would hire anybody that wanted to work with me. I mean, I went and I did hire a lot of consultants, and you know, again, all due respect, it didn't work out for me because they would, tell me yes or no, but then, and charge a lot of money. But then I was thinking, gosh, if they really could do that, they'd probably be doing it on their own. So I kind of stepped back. So I went through a few stages, but what, I was so fortunate is, I had, great pleasure of meeting our CEO at a women's event in West Hollywood a couple of years ago, going on 2 years. But what I found as an entrepreneur, starting a business, starting an idea, creating it out of nothing, is I really had to learn what lane I'm best in, and also respect what I don't know, and how important it is to bring the right people in that do know that, such as a CEO. I'm not a CEO. I don't want all that responsibility. I just want to create, make everything beautiful. So when I met Elisa Bayer, our CEO, she came from the beauty industry. A couple of the women that we've hired since then are from the beauty industry. None of us are from alcohol. So we've built this really beautiful team of women that all have everything in common, and most women do. We like to drink, we like shopping, we love our families, we love our girlfriends. So we put together a pretty magnificent team.
Well, that's interesting because if you're developing a brand, but you hire people that aren't from the liquor industry, but work in an industry that, that has to do with branding because it's image. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yes. And I felt with Spa Girl, and the alcohol space, the industry, why can't there be a few female brands, Spa Girl being one, that speak to women like Diane von Furstenberg, Tory Burch, Trina Turk does in the fashion, or Kendall Scott in jewelry. Why not? All the others do it. So I think there's a lot of openings, a lot of possibilities, and great opportunities.
Yeah, well, and I found that look at vodka, for example. How many vodkas are there in the store? But if you do quality and you have great packaging and you can market it somehow, you're going to do well. I think. Restaurants. There's another example. Look at how many restaurants are out there, but how many are really good?
I think that the one thing that I think women and men, we all have in common is if you're building a brand and you're developing a business, you want to be unique. You want to be what's unique in your heart and soul. Take a bit of your personality and start creating it. And, like mine is design, arts, design, music. So I just, brought everything that I did on a daily basis in my interests and created a brand from it.
Yeah, or I guess the lesson for anybody watching is the easiest way to create a brand is create something that's an extension of yourself.
Exactly.
Like for me, my biggest thing is probably humor, which is why the podcast is called Bobbing for Hair Dryers. Nobody thinks of that shit. But and it's not normal, but that's, so what would you say if you look at how many years has Spa Girl been in? Is it 7 now?
Well, from the dream, we're going on 9 years from in my head, but and the preparation, the brand book, the branding, everything, it's going on 9 years. But I didn't bottle until 2016, didn't get a distributor till 2017. And we really kind of hit the ground running in 2019. So it takes a long time. Now, I think for me, I had such a learning curve because I didn't know anything in the industry, and I don't have a business degree. I'm as raw as you can be out here. I didn't finish college because I became a flight attendant. I learned everything, but I truly learned it the hard way. So,
but you learned. That's all that matters.
But I learned, and for me, learning that way, I'm not going to forget it, and chances are I'm not going to make that mistake again. We went to production one time, and sadly, we ordered the wrong bottles. They go to get decorated, and I'm sitting on 5,000 bottles that cost an arm and a leg, and they're the wrong size. And I was like, oh. So.
Well, but you know what? But at the end of the day, you're here, You're nationally distributed, so who cares about those mistakes? But actually, I don't like the word mistake. I like lesson.
Lesson. And the thing is, I think if anybody that's starting a business or has a dream, just I can't emphasize, don't let your fear get in your way, and don't let anybody tell you it's not a good idea. Because a lot of people go, oh my gosh, that's a terrible idea. And people would say to me, they go, I hate the name Spa Girl Cocktails. I mean, I hate the name. I don't get the name. And then, but the reason why it's Spa Girl Cocktails is my signature martini that I've made literally for 20 years is a cucumber martini that tastes like spa water. So it was very genuine. I wasn't just like pulling something out. So I think anybody thinking, whatever they're trying to do, if they want to, make a company where they do mountain bike tours or whatever, whatever that you love, that you're passionate about, is a great beginning.
Well, but it's interesting what you said about how when people were criticizing, you in the beginning, is I read an article with Sarah Blakely, and she said something very interesting. And she was talking about how if you have an idea, a big idea, I don't mean like, oh, I want to start, losing weight or something. I mean, like if you want to start a business or something, a lot of times people will try to, dissuade you from it. Not to be mean, but maybe out of love because they want to protect you. But, and I always remember this quote from her: ideas are most vulnerable in their infancy. So, her argument was, don't tell anybody, not even your significant other, at least not in the beginning, because you're going to spend so much time defending that idea when in reality you should be expending that energy to not foment, to feed that idea, to grow it. And
no, that's a good point. It is, because and I'm one who shares too much. I mean, I'm so excited about it. I mean, after I got the trademark, I think everybody in my life knew I did it. So, but it's just, sometimes the excitement, keeps you going, and the optimism. But she's so right, because you open that door for criticism at an early stage that you're not prepared for.
Yeah, true. And then again, you're going to be expending energy defending the idea when really that energy should be going to growing it, or depending on how much backbone somebody has or doesn't have. They may just like, oh, hell with it, when it could have been a great idea because maybe they're getting beat down by their significant other, or something like that. And
it's a reality too. You have to, when I, in the early stages of Spa Girl, my husband and I were financing it on our own. We got friends and family, and it was very, very expensive, and it did put pressure on a relationship. Like, my husband would come home and he goes, well, what did you do today? What's going on? Where's the business? What's happening? And I mean, and I still have, this beautiful brand book sitting on the table, but nothing else, kind of. I mean, there are many days like that where you just can't get that traction. And, there would be days where he'd go to work and I'd climb back in bed, put the covers over my head and just say, I can't do it. I can't do it. This is too hard. I've got to give up. I just can't do it. And I sit there for about 5 minutes and I'm like, absolutely not. I'm going to do it. Knock it off, sit up straight, put a smile on your face, and go take a walk, go into some stores, go find that inspiration. And sure enough, then I'm like, got it, got out of that hole.
Well, congrats on that. So for anybody out there, because I know that what you went through is common for a lot of people, those feelings of crawling back under the covers in the beginning, how much would you say that happened? 10% of the time, 20% of the time, 30% of the time?
No, I think in the beginning, it didn't happen. It happened probably about, for me, maybe a couple years into it, trying to find the flavor house. I worked with 5 different flavor houses across the country. And I mean, it got to the point where it's like, I'm spending all this money and nothing's working. And so initially, I think I was so euphoric about building this brand and starting this business. I was in such a honeymoon stage, but as time goes on, reality hits in and you're like, oh, wow, I've been at this for 3 years and I don't even have I don't have a finished product to show. I've been at it for
Oh,
4 years and I don't have a finished product.
so when you got to that point where you've been into it for a couple of years and the honeymoon phase was over,
Mhm.
when you said you would feel down sometimes, how often do you think that happened? And I ask because I'm trying to kind of, I mean, everybody's different, but if it's more prevalent than most people think, I think it'd be good for them to hear. That's why I asked, not to like
I'm
highlight
like,
any negativity.
oh my God. So I'm like the truest, most optimistic person there is. I mean, there could be, a nuclear bomb could go off, and I'm like, oh, well, that's okay. We'll figure it out. So it would take a lot for me to get down,
Yeah.
but it would happen, and it's real. And I think you have to experience it because you do come out stronger. And
Yeah.
especially if you're not, you can't doubt yourself. Although I did all the time. I mean, early on, I would, very early on, well, once I had, let's say 2017 is when then, you go from starting a business, the dreams, the hopes, everything, to, working through it a couple of years. Then now I have a product. I've, what the first thing I did, I entered a bunch of flavor contests and we started winning awards. I'm super confident. I've got this product. We've won 5 awards. We've won a double gold in New York City. This life is great. I'd go into boardrooms to try to raise money and meet with men, and they're all in suits around this table. And then all of a sudden I would freeze. I mean, I'm not a public speaker, and here I am on my own trying to schlep my goods, and they're looking at me going, I don't know. And that was a whole other learning curve, to not be intimidated during any type of presentation you're trying to do.
Oh, so on that note, how did you finally win them over? Was it just them tasting it like, oh, wow, this is really good? Or how did you finally win over those men?
I think, well, we had a good product, and they were very kind. But I think for myself, just being really gracious and thankful for their time and thankful for their input, because you need everybody's input, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, true. So what, before we wrap it up, I'll just say, if you look at your whole journey, what would you say are 2 of the hardest lessons you learned, mistakes, lessons, whatever you want to call it? Well, actually, I prefer lessons. 2 of the hardest lessons you've learned, and 2 of the biggest successes you've had.
Good questions. I think the hardest part was trusting people too much to where you can be taken advantage of. I've had a couple of times where people wanted to partner with me to take control of the company, which told me 2 things. It scared me. I mean, oh my God, they're trying to take what I built away, but not trust anyone. But then the other thing it taught me is, wow, I must be onto something, if somebody wants to take control of it, which, never happened, but it was just, it was early stages with consultants. They're like, hey, we'll work for you, but we want 55% of it. Well, plus we want all this. So it's just kind of a crazy thing. But I think the biggest triumphs are truly having customers taste it, like it, buy it, love the brand, resonate with the brand. And I think that's the dream that I wanted to create. And I love, I want to just keep, going and going.
Nice. Yeah. And for anybody out there, I've tried several flavors of Spa Girl, and it is very good. Very clean tasting. My favorite, even though I like the cucumber, it's got that nice clean. I have to say the peach, I felt like I was just biting into a peach. And that's what I liked as a chef, because I don't like artificial flavors. Unless it's a lollipop. I don't really eat many lollipops, maybe 2 a year, but that's probably the only exception.
Yes, and I think if people really know their audience in a way. I mean, I think, creating Spa Girl was easy because I have beautiful women friends and my daughters, and, I mean, women are women. They just put us together and we'll talk about something forever, So I had a very, it was easy. We love to drink, but I think, I know that doesn't sound very good, but we do. We love to have a cocktail.
I work in the alcohol business. Even if you love to drink, no judgment here.
But I think what is, it's a celebration. And I think anybody starting a business, and, my dad, told me this, and it's just an old business knowledge, I guess, is, be different. You've got to be unique, be, cheaper, or just, have something that nobody, that's it's hard to get. And so it's like, okay, well, we are unique. We're not the cheapest, but if you have one or two of those attributes, you've got something to build on. And so it's, it's always good to, keep it relative too. We do a lot of, new things all the time. And and it depends on what you're doing. If you're starting a business that you're, making, cell phone covers, or if you're just trying to start a company that you want to build a lifestyle brand, it's kind of two different ways to do it. One's more practical, one's more imaginative, based on your own personal experiences.
Did you, and here's one more question. You talked about staying in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
What types of things? So I know you said that you handed over the CEO role. So it sounds to me like you were more of the kind of abstract art side of the brain, which is what I am.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to like the nuts and bolts, that's where you kind of felt, that's not for me. And am I right?
Absolutely, 100%. I know when I was trying to, and I did manage everything because, we were underfunded. We had a great idea, great brand, great product, terribly underfunded. I didn't have, again, being in your lane. I mean, I could go and present and be in meetings, but I couldn't raise money. It's just not what I do. It's like, hey, by the way, I need $5 million and here's what we're going to do. Raising money was super hard. I mean, people loved it, got an idea. Oh, I don't think so. My accountant said no, on and on. So I had to stay in my lane in creativity and as, the brand. And then, Elisa, total rock star, she talks that language. So she went right in as CEO, cleaned everything up, an incredible leader. I'm a leader for a party and celebrations, right. But when it's running a company and the finances, I'd rather stay right where I know where I do the best work. So she was able to come in. We were able to raise, a great deal of money. I mean, for us, and that really changed the trajectory of the company.
So what did she do that you like when it came to getting money or mm-hmm. donations or investors? What's one or two things you learned from her she did that you weren't doing?
Well, she had the proper connections.
Oh, okay.
In the VC markets and, banking, family offices that I didn't have access to.
And is it fair to say, this is a question that some people, because some people don't know what their lane is. Did you just know that you weren't, whether it be you felt you weren't good at or just didn't like, those other things, or how did you know what your lane was? I mean, it sounds to me like you always kind of knew based on what I'm doing.
I think it's where you're comfortable. You put me in a kitchen or at a bar, at a party, talk about our brand and our cocktails. It's great. You put me in front of a bunch of, VCs, and then they want to know the numbers. They want to know on and on. I just don't, the numbers are the things that, I'm just not good at. And, and I think people, you kind of know, when you're super comfortable talking about something or doing something, then that's your lane, but it's always good to be outside though. I love to challenge myself, public speaking being the biggest one. That was,
I love doing that.
I didn't, I'm getting, getting better at it, but, at the same time, so there's things that, I think, you don't want to be too hard on yourself. Because I would like going, why can't I figure this out? Why can't I get investors? Why can't I get a distributor? And, you question everything you do. but you just can't stop
Well, that
because
could be,
the door will open.
well, that could be a good lesson for people is if you're struggling in certain areas, it could be that maybe that's not your lane and maybe you need to hire out. And that's a
Exactly.
lesson I had to learn over the past couple of years because I always wanted to do everything myself, not from an ego point of view, but just because I like learning and doing different things. But I realized that, you know, for example, and this is for anybody out there watching, don't do what I did. So about the company I run is a promotional agency, and we were 6 years ago, we weren't even doing a $500,000. And then before the pandemic, we were over $1 million. But in like 2014, and you know, when we were much smaller, I was handling the books. I have no business handling books. I suck at math. I suck at accounting. I suck at bookkeeping. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking that, yeah, I can do this. I'm just inputting invoices and just running the numbers. No, there's more to it than that.
Well, that's part of, don't you think that's part of bootstrapping it though? You know, you have to do that because you don't have anyone else to do it, but then you quickly know you don't want to do it.
Well, true, but I mean, it wasn't like I had to hire somebody who was making, you know, 100 grand a year, you know what I mean? And yeah, I just like, I look back, I'm like, what the was I thinking? That's just not my lane. It is not my lane at all. And
that was the biggest thing. I mean, the most important factor for me is truly knowing my lane. You know, knowing.
I think that's important for everybody because you have to focus where you're best at, because that's where, you know, because like you talked about, it's good to get outside of your comfort zone. I agree. But when it comes to running the business, work on the stuff outside your comfort zone on the side. And then when it gets bigger, introduce it in the business, because, you know, you don't want to use the business as the trial phase. Like, oh, I've never made a cocktail before, and I'm going to try to introduce a new spa girl when they already have flavors that are, you know, developed, you know, that's your area. But, well, cool. Well, look, Karen, thank you. I appreciate it. Is there anything before we let you go? Is there anything? Oh, and then before, stay on for a second. I have something I wanted to mention to you. Is there anything that before we go, is there anything you'd like to tell anybody that wants to start a business or is maybe too afraid or doesn't know where to start?
Yes, I mean, first of all, anybody can reach out to me at any time, you know, via email, Instagram, anything. After going through and, you know, going through the good days, the good, bad, and the ugly, I can't emphasize enough, just, you know, go for it. You've got to try it. Again, if you don't, somebody else will, and you don't want to be out looking at it going, gosh, I should have just tried. And fear plays a big role in it, and confidence does. But just, you know, accept the fear for a few hours and dust it off and go back.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, hey, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated, educational and enjoyable.